We're back. Welcome back for another episode of the Extra Mile here for October 17, 2019. The second round of the NASCAR playoffs is coming to an end, and that means 4 drivers will have to put it all on the line to get to the semifinal round and fight for the positions 5 through 8. But there is one fight that is over, and that is the Formula 1 World Constructors Championship. Mercedes has won again, spoiler warning. And we're going to talk about all that and more on this edition of the Extra Mile with myself and my co-host for the evening, Michael Ward.
Hello, everyone.
It is back to an old school-ish affair this evening on the Extra Mile as Caitlin is dealing with some unfortunate sinus issues. She barely got through not what it seems earlier today, so she's taking the night off. She'll actually be taking the next couple of nights off, and so will Lita as well, as the old work grindstone continues to grind us all into dust. But hey, we're going to be a bit more... what is the word? Positive. And talk some racing on this Thursday evening. We'll start with the Formula 1 World Championship, which was interrupted by a super typhoon on the Saturday, which washed out all the running. So qualifying ended up on Sunday. Michael, Ferrari ended up qualifying up front, but at the end it was, well, once again, lol, Mercedes.
Yeah, the problems for them started right off the bat.
And we can talk about those problems as Vettel did not get a good start, ends up getting jumped by Bottas, and then behind him, Leclerc ends up knocking Max Verstappen out of the race. He ends up getting a post-race penalty for that. He also gets a post-race penalty for staying out with a damaged wing. The damaged bits then come off and knock off the rear view mirror of Lewis Hamilton's car. So Leclerc driving around thinking, oh, the car feels fine. Well, yeah, the car might feel fine, but you know that little bit of carbon fiber flailing on the side of the wing? Yeah, nobody wants to get hit by that.
Yeah, safety reasons.
And it today, or Sunday, rather, was a perfect example of why Ferrari did not win the World Constructors Championship. It's because they shot themselves in the foot too many times, be it poor strategy decisions, being blitzed in qualifying, or just like this, getting behind on the starts.
Yeah, this has been the story all season, and it's just why they haven't been able to get the points that they needed. Mm-hmm. They were just struggling throughout the entire season with, Vettel and Leclerc going back and forth at it. Leclerc having an engine failure, Vettel having engine failures. Notice that the Mercedes never really has an engine failure.
Yeah, last year they had one. That was a fuel pump issue, and they never had an issue after that. The engines this year, though, Michael, they've been bulletproof.
Yeah, they're bulletproof engines, and they just haven't had any difficulty with it. And whereas Ferrari, they have difficulties here and there. Mm-hmm. All I can say is that for Mercedes, for apparently having the slower car, they had the more well-balanced strategy and structure. It used to be Ferrari being able to defeat Mercedes on strategy. Now it's the other way around, and unfortunately Ferrari just couldn't capitalize.
Well, remember a couple of years ago we were talking about whether or not Mercedes knew how to strategize with them not having to race anyone really, and then Ferrari was starting to give them the business, and it was like, oh, they've kind of forgotten how to race strategy. Well, now it seems like Ferrari has forgotten how to race strategy, and is also not helping when the drivers, as we saw in Russia, don't follow the instructions.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's just they're not following the instructions, and they're also just kind of doing what they want on the track. And, like Leclerc, he wanted to stay on the track, and it wasn't the best decision because that could seriously hit somebody and, hurt them, or hit somebody in the audience and hurt them.
And it almost did. That's why I ended up getting the 2-time penalties. Ends up falling to 6th, then to 7th, which pretty much puts him and Vettel were both eliminated anyway out of the World Drivers' Championship. So it's not like that matters. That's now a race between Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Probably going to end up with Hamilton winning it because I just don't see them giving the championship to Bottas at this point. So,
there's no reason to give the Bottas, but Hamilton has too high of a lead, and to just slow them down, they have to slow them both down, and there is a chance that Leclerc could catch up, so I don't think they would risk it.
Well, right now, Bottas is down by 64 points. Hamilton's going to have to finish second. He's going to have to finish ahead of Bottas and able to lock it up. If Bottas wins, it's still going to go on to the next race, which would be America, where he loves to clinch the championship.
Yep. On our soil.
Yep. So if Hamilton finishes second, he will guarantee, if Bottas doesn't win, of course, on Mexico, and Hamilton finishes second, if he finishes third, he will have enough points to lock up the championship at that point. So podium finish for Hamilton, and he is podium finish for Hamilton, provided that Bottas does not win. Hamilton will win the championship in a couple of weeks. And it's kind of sad because coming into the start of the season, Michael, we thought, Ferrari was actually going to do things. We thought it was going to be another Hamilton-Vettel slugfest, this time all the way down to the end. And hey, maybe Ferrari's going to have a chance. And no, it's pretty much been Mercedes from Australia all the way on.
Yeah, they've bottled their chance for not the whole season. They've had some signs of success, but honestly, this is just a bottle.
And now they're gonna have some decisions to make on how they develop the car going forward. They have the advantage right now, but the question is, how much of that advantage is true? Because Mercedes has let their foot at this point well and truly off the pedal, and how much of it is legal because the teams have issued inquiries into what Ferrari's been doing with their engine, especially, or one of those places is a controlled leak in the intercooler, according to motorsports.com, as allowing some oil to be used in the combustion chamber, which is not what they're supposed to be doing, of course.
Oh, jeez.
So a couple of the teams did lodge a inquiry into that, but it doesn't look like those are going to be listened to. The FIA kind of wants them to lodge an official protest, which is kind of different from, as the article was saying, with how Charlie Whiting used to do things, because Whiting would actually take those inquiries seriously and make decisions on the rules. And right now, with Charlie Whiting unfortunately passing before the season actually started, and a new sort of regime put in place, things are flowing differently in terms of F1 adjudication. And I think they need to take a look at it, because if they don't, then the teams are going to start chasing it. And when the teams start chasing it, that means they start spending a whole lot of money. And what do we not need Formula One teams doing right now, Michael?
A whole lot of money.
Exactly. So this is something that they need to get a hold on quick, fast, and in a hurry. But as we look down the results page, Bottas was first, Vettel second, Hamilton third, Alexander Albon was fourth, Carlos Sainz ends up fifth, Daniel Ricciardo had a great day. He ends up picking up points, finishing sixth. Charles Leclerc, of course, falling to 7th. Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez, 8th and 9th. And Nico Hulkenberg rounds out the point scorers. And then we look at the teams that did not score points. Of course, Racing Point of Lance Stroll finishes 11th. And Kvyat 12th. Lando Norris 13th. Kimi Räikkönen 14th. And then we get Roman Grosjean 15th in Haas. Michael, we were talking before the start of the show, and Haas announced that they are pretty much done touching the car. They've got what they've got for the rest of the season, and that pretty much ends a disappointing venture where we thought they were going to challenge for 4th in the driver's standings. Unfortunately, it looks like they're going to finish a distant 9th. Oh, Michael, you there? Ooh, looks like we may have lost Michael, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back and continue this conversation. Stick around.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
What up, all you boxing fans? This is Vince Wright, the sports governor, and me and Gilbert Batista are the host of Ringside on IE Sports Radio. Make sure you keep it tuned to IE Sports Radio, Spreaker.com for the latest edition of Ringside. All the boxing news you need right here. Keep it tuned, Spreaker.com, IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, IE Sports Radio proudly brings to you its intergender tag team champions of the world. Yes, I am Martin Sandoval. My co-host is Felicia, and we are the hosts of The Gorilla Position, live Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. We bring to you all the latest in news and rumors and opinions and perspectives on the world of professional wrestling. We bring you guys the latest in WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and including independent wrestling such as Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and here VIP Wrestling live from Texas. Yes, it is the Gorilla Position with myself, Martin Sandoval, and my co-host Felicia, live on Spreaker.com and on iTunes.
We're back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And we're going to continue on with our F1 conversation here on the Extra Mile. Michael, we accidentally lost him. We will try to get him back in a little bit, but we're going to continue with the conversation. And so we were talking about the situation with Haas right now, as they are a distant 9th in the World Constructors Championship. And as we know, I am a huge fan of America's F1 team, and it has been a slog this year as a Haas fan between what happened with them with the sponsorship, with Rich Energy and that debacle, and them going down the completely wrong direction when it comes to developing the car, then having to revert it to Australia Grand Prix spec and basically start again mid-season. That's never a help. And then they have to go from there and have to deal with the issues of Grosjean and Magnussen not performing up to spec. How much of that's because of the car, and how much of that was because of how the quality of the drivers remains to be seen. We know Grosjean had a couple of odd mistakes this season, but there's really no time for excuses or complaints. They just did not perform this season. I know they're upset. I know fans of the team are not pleased because last year they looked like they were starting to build towards something, that they get challenged for that top of the F1 1.5, if you follow the Reddit, standings with Renault. Instead, McLaren has taken that with 111 points. Renault is still in the hunt with 77. And Haas has really not been in that fight at all. Then Mercedes, or Williams Mercedes, sitting there with that one single solitary point. It has been a disaster for Williams. But for Haas, this has been upsetting if you're a fan of that team. And they have a lot to do. They have to go back to the drawing board and fix a lot of it. A lot of the problems seem to stem from, as Gunther Steiner was talking about on motorsports.com, or what it's really been a theme the entire season, rather, it is dealing with getting heat in the tires. That has been a struggle all seasons for a lot of F1 teams, except for, allegedly, Mercedes. A lot of people complaining that the tires were made specifically for Mercedes. Well, Mercedes has struggled a lot with the tires as well, so they did not get a leg up on anybody else. But don't let the rival F1 fans hear you say that too loudly. They'll think you're on the Mercedes payroll. But Haas has struggled with their tire heat all season, and it cost them this year. It cost them dearly, cost them a lot of points, and now they are back to 9th. Speaking of teams, one team will be changing up their name next season, as Toro Rosso, the B team outfit for Red Bull Racing, will be known as Alpha next year. That is ALFA. That is not to be confused with the Alfa Romeo team, so that's going to be confusing. We're going to probably need a name jar for that next season, but the team felt that it was time for a change in how they were named, as Toro Rosso is basically just Italian for Red Bull. And they are changing their name, and this is from motorsportmagazine.com. They are officially changing their name to AlphaTauri. So we have AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo. So AlphaTauri apparently is the fashion brand for Red Bull. I did not know Red Bull had a fashion brand. I don't know why an energy drink company has a fashion line, but to each their own, and they got to make money somehow. So congratulations to them on that. I have not seen any of the clothes in the AlphaTauri fashion line, but I imagine we'll be seeing them a lot around F1 paddocks next season. And it helps change up the name from from Red Bull and, well, Italian Red Bull. So now the team will have a distinct name, but now we'll see how many people get it confused with Alfa Romeo, even though the cars will look completely different. The one question is, I wonder if we're going to be losing those stunning, in my opinion, blue, red, and white liveries that the Toro Rosso cars have had. They have had the sharpest livery for several years. Fortunately, they haven't been on the sharpest end of the grid, as they've been mired basically in the Formula 1.5 championship. But to each its own. We will see how that team runs next season. And of course, remember, this is the team that used to be Minardi way back in the day. So We're going to take another break. We're going to try to get Michael back on the show. Either way, we're going to continue on into the NASCAR coverage. And oh boy, was that race exciting. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your brother Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Two Wheels Wednesday is the place to come for all your motorcycle sports news every Wednesday on IE Sports Radio with myself, Matt White. All the latest news, rumours, race reviews and previews from World and British Superbikes and the big one, MotoGP. Two Wheels Wednesday, every Wednesday on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
From the home plate to the nets, the end zone to the finish line, here nothing is off limits and no sport is safe. Not what it seems, with your host Caitlin Seam, bringing you sports like you've never heard before. Catch me Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on IE Sports Radio. The only question is, are you ready?
And we are back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Darryl and Michael here with you this evening, and we're going to continue the show, get into NASCAR. Round 2 of the playoffs is almost over as we're heading into Kansas. But first, we're going to talk about Talladega, which was rain delayed to finish on Monday. And Michael, that was one heck of a race. Michael?
Sorry. Yeah, that was one cracker of a race, I'll tell you, as they say across the pond.
I'm pretty sure Matt would be proud of us. By the way, congratulations to Matt, Vicky, and little Amelia, as Matt and Vicky got married over the weekend. So congratulations to them both. Now that I bring that up, congratulations to both of y'all. As we continue into the race, Michael, this Talladega race that has been in the ever since it's been in the playoffs, it is either been pants on head exciting or completely boring, and there has been no opposites. I mean, there's been nothing in the middle. It's either been exciting or a snooze fest. This race, for whatever reason, with everything to play for and a lot of drivers that desperately needed to get points, it was pretty darn exciting. We had 2 and 3 wide racing all day long, and if you could hear us during the call of stage 1 on USRN on Sunday, there's a couple of moments where we're just sitting there cringing, especially as we're getting close to the end of the stage and they're going 3 wide. You're just saying, okay, there is going to be a wreck here, there is going to be a wreck here, and nothing happened. And then we got to Monday, we got to that final stage, and as people were racing for the win, Michael, we saw 3 huge collisions, including Brendan Gaughan ending up going up over on his lid.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Did you see Brendan go up on his lid on Monday?
Oh yeah, it was scary at first, but I knew it was fine because the flip didn't look that bad. It's not like Carl Edwards when he went into the fence, but yeah, it was still a scary looking crash.
I was actually at work watching the end of this race when Brendan ends up going over. Thankfully, there was no show going on. I ended up screaming out, "Whoa!" as he's going over. Thankfully, he lands on his wheels. He was a good sport about it after everything went down to the media center, although he did say he'd probably have to ask his parents' permission to run the Daytona 500, because apparently that was the first time that he's ever flipped in NASCAR, and they were actually watching it. And, you know, Brendan Gaughan, he only runs the restrictor plate races, or I guess you can't call them restrictor plate races anymore, the super speedway races at this point. And he was having a good day. Unfortunately, Matt DiBenedetto, who was racing for the win, also got caught up in that wreck. Also, drivers got caught up in the wreck. Every chase competitor at some point got caught up in an incident.
Yep.
And the problem is when you're trying to make up points and everybody runs into problems, it's almost like no one runs into problems. And then the worst part about it was the driver that ends up winning the race, Ryan Blaney, playoff driver, ends up making it so that the bottom 4 have a much harder chance of going to pointing their way into the playoffs here in a couple of weeks, or here this week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make the next chase race that more interesting.
And
because so many out.
Yep. And to give you a little bit of context, had Ryan Newman won that race, we're going to talk about that finish here in just a little bit. If Ryan Newman wins that race, the cut line would be 9 points. The maximum amount a driver would be away from getting in would have been 9 points. Instead, with Ryan Blaney winning and locking his way in, Alex Bowman's 18 back, Chase Elliott's 22 back, Clint Boyer 24 back, and William Byron 27 back. Those 4 drivers have to have stellar days on Sunday at Kansas if they want any chance of getting into the round of 8. They're almost in must-win win territory. That is the point. That is the simplest way of getting in. But that means the race for the stage points, which become much more important in this round, is going to become more of a knockdown, drag-on affair. And if we've already seen drivers are not allowing the passes that we would normally see during the mid-season when everyone's taking it easy, that window to pass is going to be a little bit tighter.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Which, of course, is going to lead to more stirred up temper or more raw emotions and bad tempers, which, of course, we all like to enjoy. Of course, for those of us running this show. And, oh, by the way, Martinsville's in a couple of weeks. Cannot wait. But, Michael, I am surprised at how badly Chase Elliott has done in this round. He ends up getting into a couple of incidents on Sunday and Monday. He ends up finishing last at Dover. You thought he was going to carry some momentum after winning the Roval, but it's like everything just went backwards since then in this round, and now he finds himself from being a surefire lock to go on to Homestead to having to possibly win his way in to get to the next round.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna take some grinding here. He was so great going, like you said, he was so great going from the Roval, and then how quickly things turned around. He's gonna have to really hunker down and get on it at Kansas if he wants to have a chance at winning.
Yeah, that's gonna be a huge gut punch to that team, because it looked like they were in great position, and now they've pretty much they gave up all of those points during round one at Dover, and now they've dug themselves a deep hole going into the second round the second race of this round. Now they're going to the final round, where basically they're either going to have to win or they're done. And it is just wild how the championship can turn on a dime. But Michael, let's talk about that finish. First off,
oh man, I'm a fan of close finishes.
First off, thank goodness Chris Buescher and Parker Kligerman are okay, because they took hard hits into the wall, especially Parker, who went from the bottom all the way into the wall. I hate when they do that on tracks like this, because you don't burn off any sort of speed at all from the angle that Parker Kligerman took, and he hit almost dead on. Thankfully, he's okay.
Yeah, thankfully he's alive, and thankfully he's okay from that wreck.
And then we continue to the finish itself, and the 12 Ryan Newman, not 12 Ryan Newman, the 12 Ryan Blaney, 6 of Ryan Newman, they're battling it out. They bump. Blaney briefly touches the yellow line. That becomes important later. They end up locking doors across the line and ends up with the 6th closest finish in the history of the sport.
Oh man.
You don't seem very excited about that finish.
I am I'm excited. It's just I have another issue going on right now currently, but it was a very close finish. I was on the edge of my seat when I was watching it, because it's been a while since I've seen like a really close finish in NASCAR, and to see that, it's a reminder why I really like Talladega. Because there was a reason they decided to move the start-finish line back, and it's to promote finishes like that.
Yep, and it made great finishes. And unfortunately, we had some controversy with those finishes. The first one, well, first let's talk about Monday. Blaney ends up getting forced. He didn't really go under the yellow line. He touched the yellow line because Newman and Blaney made contact. People were complaining because NASCAR didn't make the call because they supposedly Newman should have been penalized for forcing Blaney below the yellow line. However, the day before on Saturday, Johnny Sauter completely not only does he force Tyler Hurst below the yellow line, he himself goes below the yellow line to keep Hurst from passing him. NASCAR has no choice to make the call, and people are complaining about the yellow line rule and how NASCAR has too many rules. By the way, this rule has been the same since 2003, by the way.
Yeah, and it's a controversial rule because there's been so many times where NASCAR has followed the rule and has not followed the rule. I don't know if anybody remembers Stewart versus Regan Smith. I think it was 2008 season.
That was before they had the force out. That was before they put in the force out amendment, if I remember that correctly. In fact, I think that race is the reason why they put the caveat of if you force someone down, you get penalized.
Yeah, because everybody said he should have won that race because Stewart forced him below the yellow line. And, even if I am a Stewart fan, but even I was like, yeah, he should have gotten a penalty for that.
Mm-hmm. And here's my problem. People are complaining about how the rule is not confusing. What is your issue, of course, is NASCAR's implementation because they take it by a case-by-case basis. And what you think is a penalty may not be what they think is a penalty. So we start complaining about the rule where the rule is simple. Don't go below the yellow line.
Uh-huh.
And people just say, well, that's why Carl Edwards ended up going into the fence. No, the wing is why Carl Edwards ended up going into the fence. And the tandem draft, so you really want to talk about it. Because those cars were going at least 210 miles per hour when they had those tandems hooked up. But the rule is simple. Stay above the yellow line. You will not have these problems.
Yep.
And it's been the same since 2003. I don't think the rule needs to go anywhere. I think people just need to suck it up and follow the rules, or this particular rule.
And I agree with you. Rules were there, and they were put there for a reason. So it's best just to follow them, and hopefully the racing will still be as good. But rules are rules, and you just got to suck them up and follow them.
So here is your finishing order from the Talladega Superspeedway. Ryan Blaney, Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, Eric Almirola, Michael McDowell picks up a top 5 for Front Row Motorsports. Austin Dillon 6th, Corey LaJoie 7th, Chase Elliott manages to rebound for 8th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished 9th, and Ty Dillon rounds out your top 10. A lot of the guys that you would usually see up here not in the top 10 due to various accidents during the race.
And Talladega is just one of those tracks where anybody can win, so a lot of teams are going to try and go for the win here just so they can get the name on the board.
And we got a lot of news and nuggets before we go to break, so let's get to those quickly. First, the Stewart-Haas Racing driver lineup for 2020 is starting to come together. Clint Boyer has been locked into the 14 for next year. That is on the heels of Kevin Harvick still having his contract for 2020. Eric Almirola getting re-signed, a no-brainer. He brings the money with Smithfield. That leaves the odd man out, Daniel Suarez. And the question is, will Cole Custer move up or will Daniel Suarez stay? It seems to be leaning towards Suarez, but Michael, Daniel has yet to make the playoffs in his 5-year career in the Cup Series. He ran well in the Mexico Series, but he's starting to turn into a bust here in Cup. Do you think he gets another chance next year in rides that are supposed to be playoff capable, or do you think this is it for him?
As much as I love Suarez, he hasn't really been providing as good. He hasn't really been providing the results as you would be anticipated, because Stewart Haas gear is it's supposed to be race winning gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't been able to produce the results. So as much as I love him, as much as I think he's cool, if I was Tony Stewart, I would let the kid go.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to be rude here, but we need points, we need results, we need wins, and he's not doing it.
And the sad part, this would probably be his end of running in a top tier ride, because he was at JGR, could never get anything going there. Went to Stewart Haas Racing, has not really shown anything since he's been at the team. I think we're looking at, unfortunately, Suarez starting to go down the order towards the mid-pack teams, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think this is destined to happen, just because he has shown promise, but right now it's just not there. And Stewart Haas Racing, they've been trying, and I guess I hate to bring Danica into this, and I know Suarez is a much better driver than Danica, but it's like, when you have a driver in race winning equipment, what do you expect him to do?
Mm-hmm.
Finish in high places and compete for wins. He's not doing that. And Stewart Haas was fooling around with Danica for a while, trying to get her to into those race winning positions, but she wasn't capable. And right now it's looking like Suarez is incapable. Eric Almirola, he's proven himself a couple of times to have already won a race, and he's proven that he can finish in high places. So
the problem,
it's time to let him go, honestly.
Yeah, the problem though with Almirola is he needs to start showing to win consistently and not on plate tracks, because he's had a couple of chances to win and was unable to convert. So he needs to work on that going into next season. But Suarez, I think it may be over for him. And finally, we got a reminder that the hauler drivers face their own sort of danger when moving the vehicles around, as we had 2 incidents in 24 hours. Ryan Preece's trailer catching fire on the way to Kansas, and the Colleague Racing number 10 for Ross Chastain, that trailer actually flipped over. If you've seen the pictures on Twitter, heavy damage to that trailer. Thankfully, the 2 drivers are okay. RCR is preparing another car for Colleague Racing to use to use at Kansas. But Michael, it is a dangerous game on the track and off it. The hauler drivers do a lot for this sport, moving all the heavy equipment that we get to see take to the track on every weekend, basically from February to November. And these hauler drivers are on the road for most of that time, and every now and then accidents like these happen.
Yeah, they do, and I'm glad everyone's all right from the hauler accident. Definitely would have been sad to hear someone had gotten hurt, but these are the incidents that happen on the roadways. We have them here in Maryland. We definitely have them here in Maryland. Mm-hmm. But I'm just glad everyone's safe, and I'm happy to hear that. And it's always great to see these haulers on the road sometimes.
So thankfully everyone is okay, and we will be sending out our prayers to everyone involved in those incidents. And as we're going to go to break here, I just want to say that on Tuesday we committed an angel to the heavens as Pop Albert Charles Doby Sr. was laid to rest on Tuesday. My grandfather. Originally, I was planning on not having the show this week, but I decided that we were going to come on. Pop-Up would not want me to mope around because he's gone now. He would want me to continue on and be the best that I can be. I know he's watching me from heaven right now. We enjoyed a lot of time together in my 29 years of life. He was basically my father figure, and I'm going to miss him a lot. But I just wanted to say that we are dedicating this episode of The Extra Mile to him. And Pop-Up, if you're listening, I hope you're enjoying it. We'll be back, and we're going to have some conversation on IndyCar as we remember Dan Wheldon here 8 years later. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development. But we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest donors. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
NBA, college basketball fans out there. Tired of hearing about just the dramatic stuff in the basketball world. Tired of hearing about what such and such reward tonight. And not about the game? Hey, leave all of that alone. Because on Wednesday night, I got this show called Fast Break with Phil Jones here on the IE Sports Radio. And all we talk about is straight basketball, from where it comes down to the NBA, the NCAA, and even the WNBA. I don't discriminate. I give all my NBA, my basketball, whatever you want with sports, to the slam dunks, to the three-pointers, to the teardrops, to the game winners. I'm there. I'm speaking about it. I have a debate. I have my panel. I got a squad that rolls in. And we're going to be talking mad sports. We're going to be talking about the Lakers. We're going to be talking about even the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to be talking about who's the top team out there in the NBA. So, tired all the drama. Tired all the... What did he wear today? What kind of shoes he had? Forget all that. Just come over. Fast Break with Phil Jones here on IE Sports Radio every Wednesday night at 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, y'all. So, yo, tune in.
time for the white flag lap of the extra mile here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Darryl and Michael here with you this evening. We're going to wrap up with some IndyCar conversation. Safety, the name of this final segment. It's got about 10 minutes here. The aero screen has gone through more testing as the champion, this year's champion, Joseph Newgarden, took it out, had rave reviews for it. And it was all of that advancements in safety in IndyCars, a bit more poignant today as, yesterday was the 8th-year anniversary of the untimely demise of Dan Wheldon, who was killed in an, just to be honest, ill-advised stipulation in the 2011 IndyCar World Championship at Las Vegas, where there was a $10 million bounty if Wheldon was able to start from 34th and win the event. There were 34 cars that showed up on a 1.5-mile speedway. There was a reason IndyCar does not run that many cars on that small of a racetrack, and unfortunately, an incident in the mid-pack caused a massive crash. There was no way Dan Wheldon was going to be able to slow down for it in time. He ramps off another car. His head ends up hitting the catch fence, and he succumbed to injuries from that accident that day. And Michael, it's hard that we go through this weekend every year since that passing. We come to that weekend, and the first thing I think is, why did we have a stipulation to that race like that?
Honestly, that race should not have happened. Like you said, it was a track that did not warrant that type of racing, and in a series that doesn't honestly need that many cars. And they tried it, and it did not have to go. It was, I think even I don't remember this there, but didn't the driver say that the race was dangerous before the race even started?
There was a lot of mention. From the drivers that this race is going to be dangerous all weekend.
Yeah, and if you have the drivers worried about it, you should probably warrant that maybe the race shouldn't have happened. But they just went with it anyway, and fortunately we lost Dan Wheldon. A great driver. He's gonna be sorely missed, and he's still missed to this day. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't believe it when it happened. And I was talking to you, Darryl, about this before we came back on air, but I'm just so glad that, yes, we still lost a driver this year in Hubert, but can we just thank the engineers and designers who are trying to make these racing series as safe as humanly possible?
Mm-hmm. And they have done a lot of work to make sure that these drivers and teams are safe. And there's been a couple of instances this year where 20, 30 years ago, we're talking about losing a driver. So the cars have become much, much safer already, but they will never be 100% safe. I mean, these guys are, especially in IndyCar, going over 200 miles per hour. There is no way that the cars will ever be 100% safe, but as safe as we can get them, we need to do it because we can make driver deaths even more of a rarity than they already are, and we should continue to strive towards that as much as we can.
Exactly, and the way we can do that is to keep moving forward and to keep our passion of racing alive by making it as safe as possible.
And we will miss Dan Wheldon. A video resurfaced this year of his son Sebastian getting to kiss the bricks at Indy, which I always thought was so adorable. It just kind of puts a tear in your eye because Sebastian was that little baby that Dan was holding when taking pictures after winning his second Indy 500 after J.R. Hildebrand inexplicably, went into the wall, and now that kid is growing up driving go-karts as it is right now, and hey, maybe one day we will see him in IndyCar one day as well.
One day.
Well, Michael, before we go, of course, we need to make picks in Nearest the Win. And, of course, this week they're going into Kansas. Last race of round 2 of the playoffs. And you know what? I'm going to pick Chase Elliott to bounce back and win his way into the playoffs. Or into the playoffs semifinal round.
Okay. I'm going to go with... I don't think I've went with Truex for a while, so I'm going to go with Truex. Just for nostalgia. A special reason this weekend, just because I haven't picked him. He's like one of my favorite drivers, so I'm just going to pick him.
So that will do it for this episode of The Extra Mile. Of course, remember, my writings are on WBGR.com. Lita's are at gpgirl.com. If you've missed any episode of The Extra Mile, you can listen to it on the Spreaker Show Reel, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, and other places where podcasts are heard. Remember to keep it locked to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter. And, of course, if you want to get in contact with us during the week, I'm at DKJr12, Michael's at StargazerFX, Caitlin's at Caitlin Seam, and Lita's at Lolita Camelo. With that being said, this has been another episode of The Extra Mile. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr., and for Michael Ward, we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.